If you've ever been invited to a really refined and sophisticated home for a dinner party, you might notice the hostess doing some peculiar things which you wouldn't expect. Some etiquette hosting rules and class-indicating dinner party habits are quite different to mainstream culture, which, interestingly, actually makes hosting easier, which makes sense. Any frequent hostess who has guests almost every other weekend or who puts on near constant dinner parties knows the must-dos and the bits you can skip to make hosting effortless. So if you're looking to make hosting your next dinner party feel effortless and, dare I say it, even fun, then I'm excited to share some lesser-known hosting habits of elegant entertainers. First, know that cooking is completely optional. If you want to, or you have a particular interest or passion for cooking, then you can go right ahead and prepare every item for the meal. However, you can also completely opt out of that, and you're more than welcome to go for the budget-friendly method of ordering food from a restaurant and plating it well, or hiring a caterer for the evening. The reason for this is elegant hostesses who host often know the point of a dinner party actually is not the food at all. It is the company and the social time, both for the guests and for the hosts. So if cooking is going to stress you out or have you running back to the kitchen every 5 minutes during cocktail hour, then it's best to just not do it, because it takes you away from the entire point and the fun, which is enjoying your guests and spending time with them. The food is truly the least important part of a dinner party, again, unless you're extremely passionate about cooking or are a true talent in the kitchen, or if it brings you a lot of joy. But for me, that is not the case, so I often go the cooking optional route. I once served store-bought apple crumble. No, I did not tell anyone, and yes, they asked for the recipe, which I quickly had ChatGPT make up and then sent it along. If you're like me, the food should take a fitting amount of effort to its importance. That is, not that much. Think of it like this. If making the food is too much of an effort that you'll never want to host again, and if you're constantly being invited to 20 dinner parties a year, but never hosting yourself for fear of the cooking hassle, then it is worse to never reciprocate an invite than to just lower your expectations of your own cooking skills and interest, or lack thereof, as it is kind of becoming a problem at this point. Instead, just become an expert at ordering or buying items which you can plate really well. Tip number 2. A truly elegant hostess does, of course, give thoughtful consideration to her guests when planning a menu, within reason. If one's nearest and dearest are known to be passionate carnivores, then a really fabulous host might, without any fanfare or any mention of it, just tilt the evening's offerings in their favor. Not because, heaven forbid, the guest actually asked, but simply because a great hostess likes to be considerate of their guests. There's no need for big announcements or performances. Tonight we're having tofu just for you, Colette. The meal just arrives, it is tastefully chosen, and everyone is left feeling softly flattered. That said, this thoughtful tailoring applies only to intimate gatherings, like 6 or 8 guests seated at one's actual dining table and not just scattered across folding chairs or additional old tables put out in the garden. Once the guest list starts to get a little bit on the larger side, it becomes impossible to do this sort of tailoring, which, silver lining, grants you, the host, the complete freedom to just do whatever your little heart desires. After all, if you can't please everyone, you may as well just please yourself. But, and this is where you may come at me in the comments with your pitchforks, because while this is absolutely common practice in the mainstream culture, it is definitely going to raise eyebrows in certain social circles. If you are invited to a home where someone says, "Oh yes, we're just terribly lucky," and what they mean is, "We own half of Wiltshire," or if you're invited to a home where the curtains have been around for long enough to have seen 11 different prime ministers, then these are the kinds of places I'm speaking about where the whole mainstream trends are not going to fly. In these situations, it would be terribly bad form to submit one's preferences as if this dinner was an a la carte menu at the Ivy. Just to be clear, preferences are obviously not the same as actual dietary restrictions. Life-threatening allergies, yes. Severe medical conditions, of course. A good hostess would genuinely accommodate all of those dietary restrictions, if not just out of their own good nature, but also because manslaughter charges would be very time-consuming. Well-behaved guests will share their genuine dietary restrictions very discreetly at least a week prior to the event, so the hostess can plan accordingly. But guests who are hell-bent on showcasing their trendy diet, like "I'm low-carb this week," or "I don't do dairy unless it's burrata," can pretty much be ignored. Particularly from guests whose veganism mysteriously didn't apply to the cheese fondue that you all ate together last week while you were skiing in Verbier. Etiquette at its core is about graciousness, and that goes both ways. The host extends care and hospitality, and the guest, in return, spares the host a logistical nightmare of composing 4 custom menus and a food allergy spreadsheet. The best guests know this because those who have hosted more than 10 dinner parties in a year understand the unspoken rule. Don't be difficult unless you're genuinely dying, and even then, do it politely. Which leads me to tip number 3. Making hosting feel effortless requires well-behaved guests, so do not feel pressure to invite back less than ideal guests. It's up to the guests to earn their next invite with their easy-to-please nature and fabulous social skills, which enhance the fun of the evening for everyone. If a guest was the definition of dull or high maintenance, they're gonna find their social calendar rather empty, and one day they'll clue in as to why they're never being invited back by you or anyone else. Social reciprocity doesn't mean tolerating another 3-hour monologue about someone's sleep training schedule, and until the day that those guests change their behavior to be considerate to their hosts, then you're under no actual obligation to invite them back again. Tip number 4, elegant hosts are not stressing about all the details because they need it to look perfect for the Instagram post. If the most interesting part of your dinner party was the post on Instagram, then that was a fail of a dinner party. The most interesting part should be the people and the conversation and the fun, and basically the thing that the people of Instagram only wish they could have experienced should they have received a beautiful cream-colored invite in the mail as well. So focus your hosting efforts on inviting and seating beside each other interesting guests, introducing and sparking conversations between guests where you know they'll have something in common, those sorts of things. But don't spend all of your precious effort crafting the absolute perfect visuals for Instagram. Though of course, that said, do absolutely have fun with the tablescape and the decor. I'm not saying make no effort there, but again, just prioritize placing your time and effort based off of what's actually important. That is the people and the conversations, those are the utmost of importance, and then the visuals and the food come later. And that's because a perfect tablescape won't save you from a table full of people who can't hold a conversation. Tip number 5, invite guests, which will add to the atmosphere. If you're trying to get a bunch of socially awkward people to interact, or trying to include one guest who has nothing in common or very different views to the rest of the party, then your night is not going to feel effortless, but rather quite a chore trying to spark interesting conversation and force fun, or be the mediator between very different worldviews. Your most important job as the hostess is to create your guest list carefully, introduce people to one another, and then let the night be effortless as your well-chosen and well-behaved guests take it on themselves to make the evening interesting and fun. Which leads me to tip number 6, be very conscious about your seating plan so people get to know each other that they'll get along really well with, and basically where they have a chance to meet new people that they might actually like. That, again, is actually the entire point of a dinner party. So don't seat spouses next to each other or across from each other. They clearly already know each other and probably spent plenty of time together. And the point of your dinner party isn't just so that a couple can be served a free meal at someone's house and stick to only conversing between themselves. Married couples probably have dinner together every night, and this is your chance to rescue them from that. If your guests are well behaved, they will take it on themselves to get to know their seat neighbors on both sides of them and make friends with others, or at the very least make an effort to keep a conversation going, even if they're not actually very interested in their seat neighbor at all. Tip number 7, speaking of conversation and your dinner table decor, don't get too elaborate with the decor down the middle and accidentally build a Berlin Wall on the table, which inhibits conversation between those on either side of it. While yes, pretty decor is lovely and adds to the atmosphere, you still want people to be able to actually speak to each other, so just be conscious of the height of whatever fabulous tablescape it is that you're designing. Tip number 8, do absolutely get creative with the tablescaping, but don't feel like that creativity needs to spill over into how you lay the actual place setting. You are going to give your guests one hell of a time not accidentally drinking their neighbor's water when you've gone a little off piece with how you've laid the table. There is many things where creativity is encouraged, cocktail recipes, napkin folding if you really have a lot of time on your hands, but placement of glasses or silverware isn't one of those things I would encourage a lot of creativity in. Tip number 9, don't stress about mismatching cutlery or dishes or glassware, any of those things. Honestly, just adds to the charm and shows that you've been inheriting or collecting these pieces from all over time, which any day trumps going out and buying a 20-piece set of new perfectly matching silverware. So if your forks don't match, just embrace it. And tip number 10, don't feel the pressure to invite children, your own or others. Certain events are family events where children are part of the joy and the atmosphere and the purpose of the event, and others just aren't those things. Dinner parties typically fall into the category of adults only. Conversing for 4 hours at a dinner table, probably not any 4-year-old's idea of a good time, and it will be equally not fun for the parents to try to keep their little one in line for a much longer than usual dinner sit down. So to be polite to everyone and respect the specialness of the evening, keep those adult events as adult events, and if you'd like, plan something more child appropriate if you want to host something that includes the kids. Of course, all of this assumes that you're hosting at a table which is properly set and not one where the water glasses and the wine glasses look a bit more like a guessing game. So if you're ready to stop confusing your guests and start impressing your mother-in-law, then you'll want to watch this video next on properly setting the table.